You've got big projects to tackle, but your day gets swallowed up by repetitive tasks and constant inquiries. It's hard to make progress when you're stuck putting out fires. That's where Element 451's AI assistants come in. Acting like an extra set of hands, you get your time back for the high-impact projects. Ready to reclaim your time? Visit element451.com/AI team to learn more.
Welcome to In Your Element, the podcast that unlocks practical wisdom in higher education, where leadership meets real talk. I'm Brendan Hinkle, Manager of Solutions Engineering here at Element 451.
And I'm Daniela Norden, Element 451's Director of Customer Success and Engagement. Join us every other Thursday for discussions with everyday heroes using Element 451 in enrollment, marketing, and student success. We'll unlock the practical tips to help you make waves on your campus.
In Your Element is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below.
Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. All right, here we go. Welcome back, everybody, to In Your Element. I'm super excited to welcome my neighbor from Western New York, Executive Vice President of Enrollment Management, Brian Emerson from Villa Maria College, right outside, Buffalo, right? Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go.
Bills Mafia on deck.
I love it. Brian, thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited to talk just about Villa Maria's story, a little bit about you, but let's just go back to the very beginning. When you and I talked about getting you on this episode, you really did a nice job of setting the stage up. Where was Villa Maria pre-pandemic? You talked a lot about your enrollment trends, some of the challenges you were facing. So set the stage for our listeners and paint the picture of the beginning of Villa Maria's enrollment journey here.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate being with both of you and talking about Villa and myself, the easiest thing to talk about. So I'm happy to share about the college and what's been going on here. This is pretty cool. Yeah. So before the pandemic, we were definitely on an upward trajectory. We had a new president in town. He had a long history here working as an administrator and a faculty member. He took over from one of the religious sisters who had ran the college for 40 years. And so he was coming in and, making some changes and getting us out in the community, and things were going well. We were growing. We had some at least one good year in there. And then the pandemic hit and things got pretty crazy.
It was, tell us a little bit, because I think every college faced this in 2020. It was bleak. Your numbers
I was going to say,
dropped.
understatement of the year,
Yeah.
right? The understatement of the year. I don't know if there's words to describe the impact that the pandemic had on campuses and institutions, but we'll try.
I totally agree. I mean, it was particularly scary times for us. We're this really small campus, and we pride ourselves on, helping students, one-on-one attention, supporting them in many, many areas of life, way beyond what most normal colleges and universities do. And so students rely on that. And when the primary way that they experience us, which is face-to-face, went away, there was a big hole. There was that problem right there that we needed to deal with, that, our students who we had already, I think, really thrived in our environment and needed it to a certain extent. That went away. And then once we got out of that period and we started to come back with some face-to-face experiences, the students in Buffalo didn't all come back. It wasn't like somebody had turned this thing off and then turn it back on again. there was this weird phenomenon, at least in Western New York, where these students kind of disappeared. Like our normal students and our normal population that we recruit kind of disappeared. And it wasn't like we were just crazy and we couldn't find them, or we were doing a bad job with our communications. We had coalitions between, Buffalo Public School District, Sales to Education in Buffalo, big players in this area being like, where are the students? They're missing. And there were some efforts to go out and find them in pretty intrusive ways. So it was scary times, obviously, for everybody. And then for us, it took much longer than anyone expected, to kind of get back in a healthy way our funnel and our recruiting abilities.
Yeah. And I mean, that's scary is right? Because things changed in a way that no one historically has been used to, or knew what to expect, what to happen afterwards. And to your point, students left and they didn't come back. They disappeared because there was this all of a sudden, with the dependency on an online environment and online education, there's all these different things coming out of the woodwork now, for-profit schools, all online, people bolstering up all of their online schools. And then that leaves more on-campus focused institutions kind of like, what do we do now? And that's the moment, that shift, right? Where it just more and more kind of shifted into that realm. So, and you spoke about a lot of things that you guys had to shift from a strategic perspective, initiatives that you had to do. What were some of those key strategies and initiatives that you implemented, mentioning things like, campus visits and things like that? So what are some of the things that you're doing?
Yeah, coming out of the pandemic, we kind of went back to business as usual right away in terms of our recruiting methods. And we found that wasn't working, really, because the number of prospects locally that we had were not responding. So to give you an idea, like our little school draws almost entirely from like a super close geographic area. And you're going to have people out there that think like, how can they even survive with that? But we get a major percentage of our students come from like the suburb that we're in and the city that we're right next to. And that's fine. But, everything that we do is super local. And so we got back out there and, we couldn't do the visits in the high schools quite the same way, the consortium visits to all the schools. These high school students weren't super interested. They weren't super engaged. So like the business as usual stuff wasn't working. And, that was scary when we're coming out of that pandemic, feeling like, okay, we got something now. We can get back after it. We get back on track with that growth that we were experiencing beforehand. And then it just wasn't there, so the door was kind of slammed. So we had to make some changes, as you suggested. And, the two big things for us that we put our focus on is, at the college level, one of the things that our president essentially led was just trying to raise the profile of the college and make connections locally with new friends of the college, new community organizations, new potential donors, groups, just getting out there in ways that we had never done before, and really pounded the pavement to help us become more well-known in the community. And the other thing that we did was we started going crazy on visits, and we invested very heavily in trying to get students here on our campus. And we did that mostly through like field trips and like engagement opportunities for classes in high school, groups in high schools, as well as individual visits. But everybody does individual visits. That's not our bread and butter. So we said, we need more people to experience this place. We need more people to see what we're all about, learn about our programs, learn about our environment and all the supports that we give to students. And we said the best way to do that is to go out and to bring them in. So that was our big focus.
And you were able to increase that, right, Brian? Like the increase in campus visits post-pandemic, using that strategy, getting people to register and sign up. I think you shared some numbers on what the difference was in getting those students to campus, right?
Yeah. So the first year that we tried this, it's been 2-year strategy so far. We're going to be in our third year right now. So the first year we did it, we set a record enrollment. Applications were up over 1,000. Total number, just huge growth in applications. And so we had about 1,100 students visit us in that year. This past year, where we broke that record, and we think we broke all of the records for enrolling with this class that we just had. We had over 1,500 visits. So that was up another 400 visits from the year prior. And these are field trips. These are we have a connection with like the vocational high schools in Western New York. So bringing out ones that have connections to our majors, things like graphic design or, digital film or animation, stuff where they're interested, like that, going out to community colleges, bringing those students in, really anybody that has a connection, an interest in one of our programs or in our environment, where they could be a good fit. So we brought in, we hosted Buffalo Public Schools is a giant school district here in Western New York. We hosted their student leadership council retreats. We hosted, they have days where they bring in students from all of their different schools for DEI training and different things like that. We hosted it. We just said, we opened the doors. And we said, you want to come here and it's a good fit, we'll get you here. If transportation's an issue, we'll bus you, we'll come pick you up. We'll pay for the bus and we'll feed you and we'll give you a meaningful experience. So it wasn't just a tour, it was like an experience. So workshops put on by our faculty, like mini workshops that are on topic, or like we said, we're hosting a big event that they're doing. A couple of times we would bring in a speaker and invite high school students to come and listen to the speaker on topics that they were interested in. And they're just, that's, a lot of the ways that we got people here, got them engaged, because they weren't coming on their own. We don't have a real high market share in Buffalo. And so that's been the work, is we got to get people to know us more. We got to get people to experience us, and we'll do whatever it takes to get them here.
I love that clip. It's not just a tour, it's an experience. Because I think so many institutions are trying to create that experience, and it's so important. And you used Element for all of these events, right? So, well, maybe not all of them, majority of them. And you were tracking the students that came in and tracking, what was successful. Talk a little bit about that. We are going to go ahead and say it's super easy, but they're going to believe you more than they're going to believe Brendan and I. So talk a little bit about that experience and what that was like at Element.
Element is so easy.
Yes.
Even Villa employees can do it.
That's going to be the tagline for the episode on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Even Villa employees can do it. No, I don't think we'll go with that one.
Don't let my people hear that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I'll just say you said it, though. I'll just point them back to you. Brian said it. It wasn't me.
We love Element here at on this campus. We found it at a time where we desperately needed it, and it turned out to be a product that has helped us tremendously, and it's extraordinarily easy to use. That's one of the reasons we love it. So we're big fans. We'll talk good about it all day. I don't know why I don't get paid to talk good about it, but take that up with artists and your crew. But we love the product, and we're not shy about that. So yeah, everybody goes in, everybody gets tracked. All the events are on there. Everybody gets sucked into some kind of communication plan that's automated, that's followed up on. All of our apps are on there. And, we were kind of, one of the things that we didn't do right away on these visits is we didn't kind of push the application when they were here. And, so we kind of had an argument internally. It's like some people thought that was a little too slimy. And I said, it doesn't matter. Let's get them to apply. If they don't want to, they don't have to, but we're feeding them. We're getting them here. We're doing all this great stuff. So we started having them apply, and then, we did that on paper, and then we said that was ridiculous. So, we just got them right on the tablets and computers, and they were doing applications right into Element on these field trips, on these experiences, so that helped to drive the apps. But, we find that the students that actually visit us, just like you would an individual visit, on campus, if they align with our major and they're here for even any reason, if they're here on campus, we have a tremendous chance of getting them to come. So everything we do pushes to visit everything, whether if it's even just a cold app that somebody comes in, that somebody just applies off the internet. We got to get them here for some kind of an experience, a meeting with a counselor or financial aid or a tour or whatever, because that's everything. Having that experience on campus.
That's awesome.
I'm sorry, Brendan. I just want to say that we should talk about this slimy conversation, because it's a missed opportunity not to do what you were doing, Brian, not to give them the application. You've got the momentum. They're on campus. They're feeling the vibe. I think oftentimes in higher ed, we shy away from the sale. I'll go ahead and say it, and thinking of students as customers. And
it's an ugly word in higher ed.
It is, but it works. There's value
It
in it.
There's truth to it,
And you can do it without being slimy. Like, that must have been I would have liked to have been a fly on the wall of those conversations and just kind of hearing the discussion around that.
Yeah, it is an age-old question. And I think, if you're afraid to sell, you're gonna be in that camp where it's like, oh, let's just, slip it into the folder, or leave it on the table. And you're right, it's a tremendous missed opportunity. So I think that you're right. People sometimes are just afraid, like they're afraid of being rejected, or somebody might think it's weird. But we couch it, and there's so many ways to couch it in a positive way. It's like, hey, we know you have lots of options, student who's here today. Here's one of them. And here's a lot of good reasons why. Fill out this application. Let's get it taken care of. It'll take you just a couple minutes. There's other students that are like begging for it. They love the experience. And we forget like how many of these students at high schools are not experiencing college campuses. We just like take it for granted that, every student has, a mom and dad that's driving them all over the country, and they're doing East Coast bus tours, seeing all these schools. And, there are tons and tons of students out there that need to experience a college campus environment, and they're blown away by it. And so even if they don't come there, there's oftentimes so much excitement about that. And hey, I applied, and that's great. And you know what? The other thing that we find is the folks that bring these students on campus here, like guidance counselors and teachers, they love it when the students apply. They want them to. So that helps them in their jobs in the high schools, guiding these students into whatever their next step is. So it gives them a concrete reality to move on.
And I've thought about this in the past. I was listening to a podcast a few weeks ago on it about sales, right, in higher ed. And in all reality, sales in higher ed should be the most purest form of a sale, right? Because when you think about what makes something like someone a good salesman, it's number one, good product helps, right? And you guys have a fantastic product. But the second thing is you believe in it, right? And you're passionate about it. And what better than providing a future and an education for kids, right? And for the youth. And it's just in its purest form, it should be the easiest sell, because you should care so much about it. And so the ickiness is because it's been tainted, right? It's been tainted with certain types of institutions and things like that. But to see you embrace that, and the other thing I love from what you were saying, Brian, is you got Element to fill a very specific need. You got it, and then you went forward, you made changes, and you're like, wait, we have more need. Wait, there's more capability. And then you embraced that change. And so an openness to embrace change is all the reason that we're looking at your LinkedIn post at these incredible results, record-breaking results that you guys have year after year. And that's, yes, you do have a product, a tool, Element, that does a good job, but you can take a hammer and it doesn't cook your dinner, right? It's how you use the tool. That's a terrible analogy. We should not keep that in. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the tool matters, but it's also how you use it. And you guys have done a hell of a good job using this tool to make an impact in these students' lives.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. I appreciate you saying that. Like, obviously we believe in ethical sales here at Villa, and we're not trying to do high pressure sales and get people to come here against their will or against their interests. And, we're always trying to say, you've heard this before in admissions, but like you want the student to find the right place that meets their needs, to find their fit. And like if they want a giant university, we're not pushing them to come to Villa, the smallest private college in Buffalo. That's not what we're all about. And so if that's the case, we'll help you figure out what that is and where the right place is for you. But if it's here from our mix and majors or the type of support that we offer or one of our, co-curricular programs to be involved in, then great. Let's open the doors and do that. And so like tools like Element help us in that process to make sure that we're doing it in a way where prospective students expect us to behave like and act like. So speed of communication, decision making is absolutely essential. Modern communication tools, being able to use video, being able to design things, that look great, that are beautiful, and track their results, all that kind of thing. That's the expectation out there. But Element is the tool that helps us to do that. So like we firmly believe in old school recruiting here. And like old school recruiting still works. People like to poo-poo it all the time, but it works. And so like pounding the pavement, getting to know people, doing the visits, getting back to people right away, doing great customer service, that stuff works. And you can't just throw technology at recruiting and expect to win all the time unless you're massive college brand X, right? Maybe they can. But we can't. We got to outwork everybody else. And we have to have a tool to do that. Element is that for us. And it opens the door to make sure that we're able to deliver.
I love that. Brian, you got to show off a little bit now. You got to report out what these record-breaking numbers are.
I feel like we've been teasing the listener, right? So don't worry. We're going to let loose. If you follow Brian on LinkedIn, you had already seen some of these. And like us, we were immediately like, we both saw them, and me and Daniela were like, yep, that conversation needs to happen now. So Brian, give the people what they want.
Give them what they want. They want the numbers. I obviously have to give a huge props to the enrollment staff, the admissions, financial aid folks, Becky Strader, our director, who, we recently promoted to AVP.
Congrats, Becky.
Without her.
Yes.
So, so last year, I mean, you got to think too, like, so last year in 2023, that was one of our best years. That was like our best year in 30 years, right? So this year we were just counting domestic applications, not even counting all the internationals. We were 375 applications higher, 300 apps up. Our registration number grew by 41 total enrollment. So, the increases were just awesome, and that's like, what's crazy about this is like, that's not like transfers. That was like with first time freshman students. It tells me that we're breaking into the market in ways that we've never done before, which for us is a strategy that works. I would not say that's a strategy that works for everybody, but for us with our low market share, with all these efforts, I think we're still breaking in. There's still availability out there. And I think our results are showing us that we're tapping into that. So really awesome numbers. And we grew in all sorts of good ways too. Like our honor students numbers are up. We're part of the SAES, our education program here in Buffalo, which provides last dollar scholarship to high need students from Buffalo Public Schools. Like we're the biggest private provider, one of the biggest providers, period, of that program. Just really good stuff like that. And the discount rate went down. So I should just retire. But
just stop while you're on top, just get out of the game while you're on top, and you'll be remembered forever as the guy that just continued to break records.
Yeah.
Or you can just keep breaking records.
Well, that's what we got to do. I mean, being a
right.
small school these days, we have to grow our way through financial challenges and try to do it in smart ways that don't get us into trouble. But being a small operator, you've got to try to get a little bit bigger and try to get your net tuition revenue margins up and all that. And it's helped us, all this growth has helped do some improvements on campus. We renovated the Commons a couple of years ago, and that's that and a couple other spaces like our Digital Media Arts Center. been a great way for us to attract students. And then that opened the door for us. Right now, we're renovating our former library into the Beeler Center for Academic Excellence. And that's going to be, 20,000 square foot project, bringing together, academic support offices, but also be a place where students can get and be and work on their academics and get the help that they want, and really engage on the campus on a whole new level. So
That's
all
awesome.
this stuff is good, and it just kind of compounds and keeps going and helps us grow. But we're trying to do it in smart, responsible ways.
Yeah. And, it's crazy to see the results that you guys have had based off the work that you've put in and plowed. And to your point, it's what you're doing, the steps you're taking, they work for you, right? You're small, private in New York. What advice would you give to similar institutions, similar small regional colleges facing the challenges that you faced post-pandemic, and even today as you continue to start navigating the challenges that are ahead of us? What are some pieces of advice you'd share with them? You're esteemed now as the record breaker. That's your new nickname. So people are going to listen to what you have to say.
Oh, nice. Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that, though. Like, people do start to listen to you again when you're winning, and it's funny. It's like,
Absolutely.
I've been winning this whole time. It's just I've had some extraordinary circumstances in front of me. But yeah, there are a lot of challenges in higher ed for small institutions. I know like Element has a decent amount of like small colleges in their mix, and that's pretty cool. There's a lot of challenges, and there is no one way to do this. Like, there's not like a playbook. There's some basics. Like I mentioned, just like, don't discount old school recruiting. I think a lot of people have, just in general, over the last, 10 years or so. Working hard and being there for students and providing a great, customer service experience, one that is responsive and personalized, individual. I think that still is a winning strategy at the tactical level, with admissions, things like that. I mentioned the visits that works for us because we had a smaller market share. If I had a bigger market share or more market recognition, I would probably do the same things, but I would do it differently, to attract maybe with more precision for what I wanted to build, as opposed to casting a wide net and introducing the world to Villa. I would probably do that different, but I wouldn't get rid of it because it works, and it's worked for like, however long we've been doing modern recruiting. But at the strategic level, at the bigger level, we have an understanding of who we are at Villa. We understand our mission. We understand what we value. We understand how we take care of students, and supporting them is extremely important to us. So we do things where we invest heavily in creating educational equity. So we do that through providing access to students, tons of financial aid, opening doors for them to get here in the first place. And then we support our students in major ways inside and outside of the classroom. So, everybody's got a success center with tutoring and that kind of stuff. We've got a mentoring program for every first-time fresh. Getting to school is a challenge. So, we have a rideshare program with Lyft. So every student gets a certain amount of money every month on Lyft to get here. We lobbied the local transportation to get a bus stop here on campus. So we're removing barriers. We've got specialized programs for students with learning differences. We support students in really special ways here. And then we're giving them real world experiences to try to, make sure that they're prepared for the world out after college. So we know who we are. That's what we're investing in. But our strategy works for us. And we're not just grasping at straws and saying like, okay, we got to go all in on grad. We got to go all in on online. What was that, like 15 years ago? We never even did it. We got to go all in on whatever the trend is, athletics. We take pieces of that, but, we know that we have to invest in certain ways that promotes, our vision to create a more equitable Buffalo, more prosperous Buffalo, to help our students and for us to be that hub of the creative economy here in Western New York, with all of our cool majors, all of our digital design majors and things like that. So for us, that's what works. It doesn't work for everybody. I think there's a lot of kind of pie in the sky chasing at the high strategic level. but it's got to be matched up with like a real understanding of who you are as an institution and what could work in the market. And then, and then some great effort and some luck.
This
Absolutely.
is such a good point, though, because I think that so many institutions don't know their differentiators or are afraid to embrace their differentiators. And so while some of the tactics that you're using may be specific to Villa, like a lot of schools can learn from leaning into what makes them different and the types of students that they're recruiting. So I think that's actually excellent advice, Brian. Yeah, love it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, one more question before we wrap up today, the one you've been waiting for, the one everyone's been waiting for. Now I know. It's our tradition here to ask our in your element guests when they feel in their element. So Brian, when do you feel in your element in the work that you do?
Yeah, it's a great question. I feel in my element, when we're working together and we're all on the same page, and people are coming up with the ideas and the things that need to happen on their own. It's because they invest in it, they love it, and they know it works. They want to help students, and it all comes together in kind of that special way where everybody's rowing in the same direction, working super hard, and it doesn't feel like a burden or too much of a grind. It is a grind, but like not a burden so much. Like. And you start to see the results, like you have a great visit experience, or you bring in a great class, they show up, and campus is buzzing, that's when it's the best, that's when I feel like I'm in my element.
That's awesome. And it really, honestly, that's a very full circle moment, because I feel like the best practice and the things that you do so well are, to your point, knowing who Villa is, knowing what your goals are, really the strategy behind it, right? And you feel in your element when you get to see the fruits of that, the fruits of executing in that, especially from a team level. So I love that. That's awesome. Brian, this has been such a good conversation. I'm so glad I was able to join last minute, be able to be here with both of you. But man, I've loved this conversation, and you guys are I always tell people this. Y'all are some of the OGs. Y'all are Element OGs. Villa has been with Element for a while. You guys got in ground level, and you've been riding the rocket ship. So I always love getting the perspective of your journey and what you all have been on. And yeah, I just, like I said, I've loved it.
Great stuff. And we like watching you guys too, and then watching the company grow. And it's super cool to work with Element, who is very responsive. Like, we're not shy about what we want to see on the product and in the product. And like, what's the time you guys actually do it? It's cool.
I love that you say that, because I feel like people don't believe whenever we're on a call and they're like, "Oh, do you do this?" And I'm like, know what? No. And then I ping. I'm like, "Oh, let me just talk to our VP of product really quick and just see what he thinks and all this stuff." And then it actually is something that comes to fruition. I'm like, "Listen, you don't believe me, but our partners, they ask for stuff, and we actually will just do it for them a lot of times."
Yeah.
Proof.
Yeah. And that's such an important thing, like with school, it's like looking at like tech products is, are they delivering on the roadmap? Do they even have a roadmap anymore? And you guys exceed your roadmap, you deliver on it, and you keep coming up with surprises and cool new things. The product keeps getting better. And you're right. Like, we're at the conference, and, we see one of you, and we're like, "Hey, it would be cool if," or, "Hey, this is a pain in the butt. Could you look at it?" And then you do. And it's like, wow, this is awesome. It's like, not even, sometimes when we do that, it's not even part of the roadmap. You're just on it. So I love that about the product. It's been extremely helpful to us.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brian. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing Villa's story. Thanks for being such an advocate and an ambassador. We are excited to see where y'all go and that you keep breaking records. Next year,
I was going to say, we need to make a tradition. Every time they break a record, he has to do another episode of In Your Element. It's just, it's a requirement now.
Love it. Thanks so much, Brian.
Thank you. It's been great talking to you guys.
In Your Element is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too.
Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional.
Our shows help higher ed marketers and enrollment professionals find their next big
big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your host. Learn from Mallory Wilsey, Artis Kadu, Maya Demishkovich, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed.
Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.